Since farming sims have been one of my favorite go-to games in the past few years, I wanted to kind of like unpack and dissect like my love of farming sims, and also just what is it about farming sims that just makes you want to keep playing them and finding new ones. I also want to talk about some of my favorite farming sims. Before we get started, my name is Delaney. I love talking about video games. I'm over here chilling in this corner of the internet. Also, thank you so much to the members supporting the channel as well, and let's get started. So first, before I get more into like farming sims and dissecting it, let's talk about what is a farming sim. Like, what defines a farming sim? Farming sim trope is usually you inherit this farm from a family member, most likely a grandparent. It's usually in a very quirky, secluded town where you have to kind of learn the ropes and get to know the quirky townspeople while also trying to like manage your new farm and learn these ways of slow living, but also trying to make a profit from that as well. And that is like pretty much like the landscape of like the farming sim genre and how it works. It has this very like core game mechanics. I want to say that usually most farming sims, like a majority of farming sims, starts out this way. It's all about starting over and like having this more slower paced life from the city. I want to talk more about like these farming sim tropes and what about it makes playing a farming sim so fun. So first, for me, I love the idea of like moving to a new place for like a slow living type of lifestyle, mostly because in this era of time, everything is pretty fast paced. Capitalism is running rampant. As millennials and Gen Zers, do we really have the means to like actually own a house with like the housing market? Sorry to get a little bit real with y'all, but I feel like farming sims like appeal to me mostly because it kind of gives you this like imaginary world, or like this like aspiration can't quite attain in reality. And I think farming sims kind of always scratches that itch for me. But another thing I love about farming sims is like being able to like talk to the NPCs, learning about the community in the town. And I think that like community is like a big core objective when it comes to like playing a farming sim, especially for me. I really love character development because you're kind of like the fish out of water, and it's like being able to like actually like socialize and get to know these like characters in this town and learning their backstories. It's just like so fun. The next core thing of farming sims, outside of like the NPC relationships and like even like the marriageable candidates, is the management kind of task list of like building up your farm and like learning more about like how you want to run your farm. Like you can decide and have your own direction of like what you want to do. Like you can like grow a specific crop, you can just like do animal husbandry. And I just think that all of those things meld together to create like what is like such an addicting gameplay loop. So since we talked about like what makes a farming sim and like the core mechanics of a farming sim, I do want to talk a bit more about like what were the first games that started the farming sim like genre. The very first farming sim game was Harvest Moon in the 90s, and that was like the first introduction to like the farming sim genre. Like it introduced us to the core mechanics of a farming sim. And with like Harvest Moon, that progressed to like Stardew Valley. The creator of Stardew Valley always credits Harvest Moon with like why they wanted to create Stardew Valley and like kind of take some of those core mechanics but like add a bit onto them, which is what I think is so interesting about like the evolution of farming sim genre. For me, my first farming sim was Farmville on Facebook, and I know that's super random. I remember specifically Farmville was like, it introduced me into like the farming mechanics, where it's like I can't even remember if there's a story in Farmville, but it was something that got me like addicted to the gameplay loop of playing every day and very like focused on it. Because like with Farmville, if you don't know what Farmville is, it was a Facebook game where specifically you get to like build your crops and grow things, and like basically you have to wait in real time for them to grow. But sometimes you could also do like, it had like a social mechanic where it's like you can ask friends to like water your crops or like gift you certain items and things like that. I feel like it was like a core Facebook 2010s era. That was my introduction into farming sims, which is kind of funny to me because like I feel like a lot of people say Harvest Moon. I want to talk more about like farming sims and like the oversaturation that we have had with farming sims, but also just like a few games that I feel like are really evolving like the farming sim genre, kind of giving it its own spin when it comes to like farming sims. I talked about Stardew Valley, but I'm gonna not have Stardew Valley on this list specifically because like the first game that anyone talks about when it comes to farming sims is Stardew Valley, and like Stardew Valley is a great farming sim. I feel like Stardew Valley is like the new line when it comes to farming sims, considering we do have like Harvest Moon and Story of Seasons was like the very first games of the genre. But when anyone mentions farming sim, Stardew Valley is like the first thing that comes to mind or is mentioned when it comes to the farming sim genre. And at this point, it kind of feels like Stardew Valley has become like the very top tier farming sim. Any farming sim that has come out after Stardew Valley has kind of been upholded like as a mirror to why it's not the best, because it's not Stardew Valley. And I kind of want to give out a few more suggestions that I feel like, apart from Stardew Valley, also have their own take on the farming sim genre. So that's why I'm gonna exclude Stardew Valley specifically from this list, but don't fight me, you guys. Like, Stardew Valley's, you know, still good, still great. Adding another note to like Stardew Valley and like the oversaturation, particularly any game that comes after Stardew Valley, it's like everyone doesn't see it as an individual game or a part of like the farming sim genre. They just see it more so as a Stardew Valley clone. Like, say like ᴅᴢ, a lot of people compared it to like Stardew Valley and how it was like pretty much looks like it has the same pixel art, but pixel art is a style, you know. Though it does have some similarities to things that have happened in Stardew Valley, it does really add a lot more to the genre, considering just like the whimsy and magic of it, and just how more I feel like it's a little bit more detailed when it comes to like the character interactions and things like that. I feel like the oversaturation of farming sims has just been like, because Stardew Valley became so popular when it released, that a lot of other companies are basically trying to jump on to the like trend and making sure that they get in on the money pile. I think that because of that oversaturation, that it kind of has hindered people from finding other games in the farming sim genre that are actually quite good and like pushing the genre a bit further than it started out as. And I think that's just a little bit saddening sometimes, just to see like how like the oversaturation has kind of jaded a lot of like people who are into farming sims in particular. Honorable mention for this game that just released, and it's in early access, but I think it's so interesting, especially when it comes to being a little bit different from like what we usually see in farming sims, because usually in farming sims it's very like nature, very green, and I feel like this farming sim is like kind of like a little bit darker than previous like farming sims that I usually see in the genre. This one's called Dolo, and this is actually set in a dystopian world. The ground is actually not fertile enough to be able to plant, so you have to like make your own plant boxes. You'd start off in this town that was like your childhood home growing up, and you want to like basically come back and make your own like space and kind of reminisce about like nostalgia that you felt when you were there. And it does have like some of the like core farming sim tropes to it when it comes to like growing your crops. But the first game on my list is probably like one of my top 5 farming sims, and that is Wildflowers. Initially playing Wildflowers, I didn't expect if I would like it or not. I kind of didn't like the animation style because it is different from like pixel art I've seen when it comes to like farming sims, but like I really enjoy the story, and like the animation style like really grows on me after a while. The story I think is one of the best parts of the game, and I do like it's like the kind of core farming sim trope of like Tara moving from the big city to this island where she's going to take care of her grandmother. Then she basically is like learning how to take care of her grandmother's farm, and also learning that she has magic, so you can also use magic to help you to grow your crops and learn about the townspeople. And I feel like the story in this is like so strong, and it's one of my favorite things about farming sims is getting to learn about the NPCs and things like that. And I think the main story is just really great. I really just love how it kind of takes like one of the core tropes of farming sims, but it gives it a little bit of a magical twist to it. Next game on my list, this is actually one of my all-time favorites, Coral Island. Coral Island has just so much things to do. I love the like diversity of the characters. The storylines are really good, and also there's mermaids. I really like the like magical realism. There's like a little bit of magic and whimsy when it comes to like the characters and the storylines. There's also like a side story where like this oil company has like an oil spilled around the island, so like you're trying to repair the like kind of environmental damage damage to the area. So there's a lot of like you clean up trash, and like then you end up learning about mermaids and you're helping to like clean the ocean. Next game, and this one is an early access like Dolok is, but I feel like it's really kind of finished, is ᴅＳΟირ.Ղᴢ is has been one of my favorite games that I've enjoyed in like the past year. It still is an early access, but it has been getting regular updates, and I feel like by the fall it should be actually complete. But ᴅＳΟირ.ղᴢ also has that like magical realism that I talked about before, and it's the characters are just so fun to get to know. I feel like this feels like one of the most like unified communities in a farming sim I play. If you talk to certain characters, sometimes they'll mention things other characters have talked about, or like they even have like Friday nights at the end where all the characters get to meet up together, and there's like a little storyline where every Friday you learn something new and figure out more things about the characters. And that's something that I feel like it has been missing from a lot of farming sims I've played when it comes to like the character development and like the building of relationships. In this game I feel like gets it perfectly with the dialogue. But I also do love how you also have magic can help you to grow your crops. And the last game on my list is Echoes of Plum Grove. The thing about this one is it's set in like 1800s, so it's not really modern, and I feel like that's what adds to the charm of it. So there's like so many different mechanics in this where it's kind of like cozy chaos where you can get sick, you could die, and there's a lot of like kind of like a light like a more emphasis on like the life sim mechanic where when you get married you have kids, and then you could eventually die and your kids take over your farm. And I kind of like that like family tree aspect to it. But there's also kind of like the stakes of as you're interacting with certain characters, maybe the character you're romancing, they could get taken, or sometimes you could look into the marriage announcements and find they're getting married. And I think that is really fun to do. It's very chaotic and messy. Also witches in this one as well, and like a secret coven in the woods, and there's just so many different aspects to this game that I think is so interesting. And it really takes like a lot of the farming sim tropes but gives a little bit something extra and gives it a little bit more stakes as you're playing. Those are some of my favorite farming sims. Just like my thoughts on like the farming sim genre and just like dissecting it a little bit. And so you guys let me know, what is your favorite farming sim down below? What do you think about like the farming sim genre, like what it means to you? And I'll see you guys in the next one, and have a wonderful day as always. Bye.